they do say about Einstein and his messy desk. And, being a creative person and having all your things at your fingertips. But research and science says that we just get too overstimulated if there's too much on our desk, too much paperwork, and our brain just can't sort of look and rest and get that break that it needs and that focus that you mentioned. So I'm certainly on the, have a clear desk, but it doesn't have to be completely perfect. Exactly what you said at the start of the session. It's not about perfection. It's about having the space in that you can have and to be working in, and easily having things at your fingertips. So, there's exactly what you're saying, two schools of thought, but I'd certainly lean towards that way, and having enough things so that you can just grab them, but not too much.
So I'm, as well as being wannabe organiser, I'm a self-confessed stationery devotee. There isn't a coloured highlighter or sticky note that doesn't live in my desk drawer. But what actually works in terms of tools, for your office and for your workspace? Is it baskets? Is it trays? Is it vertical files? Is it paperless? What really works?
It's a really good question. I was going to touch on two sort of physical things in your home office or any office, and two sort of habits that we could have a look at today. The first one is the desk, and having a nice dedicated space big enough to fit at least your laptop or your computer, your diary, so that you can keep focus on a notebook. Mine's as big as a dining table, but not everyone's got that space. So just being mindful of having enough space. So that was the first physical thing. And the other one was having something for filing. We might all like to be, clutter-free and paperless, but that's not always the case. We do need to have some paper around, and sometimes it's just as easy to grab a folder that's already got the information in it than having to get on the web or into your Google Drive or whatever. So you can, have some physical files. And then the physical filing system really depends on how often you want to reach for that item. If it's something you look at every day, maybe have it in one of those little drop files at the bottom of a set of drawers on your desk. Or you might have a larger size filing cabinet that you go to on a semi-regular basis. And then set up those categories to how it works for you. But it might be just a box. I work with people in their homes with stuff all over their house. Maybe just a box that says 2022 for your paperwork is good enough. It's probably not good enough for most people, but it would be better than having it in the laundry, in the toilet, in the everywhere that I see in people's homes. So that's the two physical things: a good desk, and come up with a filing system that works for you. There's not one size fits all. And I love your point about highlighters, and I love stationery and things as well, but you certainly can get carried away with that. And then the two things that I just wanted to point out about for our habits and routines and keeping ourselves and getting ourselves organized. The first one is catch the 5 p.m. bus. So 10 minutes before your day finishes, whether it's 5 o'clock or whenever it might be, have an alarm that goes off so that you can tidy up, spend 10 minutes putting your things away, and setting your to-do list for the next day so that you can just hit the ground running the next day. So I call that the 5 p.m. bus. It comes from a baby sleep whisperer, actually, about getting the 7 o'clock bus so that your baby can get to sleep well. But I've modified it for the 5 p.m. bus so that we can get ourselves into a little bit of order ready for the next day. And the last thing I wanted to say is have regular sessions for processing your paperwork. Your in-tray is not a filing system. It is not a filing cabinet. It's somewhere that things should go for a short amount of time and then be accessed. You might want 10 minutes every day. You might want an hour a day for processing, or it might be just once a week, depending on, if you need to pay bills or whatever it might be, those paper things that are coming in. So hopefully some of those things with setting up a new system would allow you to then start tackling the backlog. But if you've got a big paper pile already on the corner of your desk and it's been there for months, maybe you don't need to be too fussed about it. Maybe just flick through and make sure there's no, urgent bills or anything, or, somebody's put $500 in there that you might find when you go looking. So it happens when they're decluttering. But, you know, look at the new process going forward. So maybe those 4 things: a good desk that's going to suit your purposes, a good filing system for yourself, and then that 5 p.m. bus, and also those regular paper systems.
Paper diary.
I'm definitely electronic 100% along the way, because it can, you know, send me little reminders, and 7 o'clock in the morning when you're making lunches, the kids have got library, whatever it might be, it can just pop up, and you can have those notifications, those electric things that pop up, because my brain is, you know, often trying to do 1,000 things at once, as we are as mums and women and small business owners. But it's certainly, again, not for everyone. If you're going to have a paper diary, you just need to use it like your life depends on it, because it does. Get everything in there and refer to it often, and then put some little, you can use alarms in your phone to say, remember to look at your diary, or some of those important things might just come up as an alarm on your phone to go with that paper diary. But I'm electronic all the way.
Emails. Clean inbox, or who cares?
Well, that's I love the who cares, and if you have a massive backlog, 20, 30,000, I would highly recommend you just put them aside in a folder and start from scratch, setting up new systems going forwards, unsubscribe to things that you're not reading or you're not making time to read. So you've got less coming in, and start that system, that new system going forward. The chances of you getting through 10s and 20,000 emails are pretty, you know, you could put a timer on and do an hour every day, but it would still take you months and months to get through it. But hopefully you can, you know, set up that new system, as I said, with the emails, and that's a whole new topic for another day, the electronic side. But maybe those couple of things might be helpful.
Julie has some fantastic tips and blogs that she shares regularly on LinkedIn, and we've shared her LinkedIn link in the chat, and also on her website. And so there's plenty there. And we're going to talk a little bit more with Bronwyn about finance in a moment. But Julie, can you tell us about your 1 to 31 filing system?
That's really interesting that you found that. I found a few ladies that, as we all do, trying to put too much on our plate, and using this 1 to 31 filing system was a way to process stuff that's coming in. So it might be you've just got one of those lever arch folders with the 1 to 31 tabs on it, and then so that represents the days of the month. You would just put one article, or usually an article or a piece of information of interest in that 1 to 31. 1st of March, we go to the 1st, and we action and look at that piece of paper, the 2nd, 3rd, and so on. So it's not particularly a filing system, it's more of an action system. Again, I was having people that just have too much on and not allocating time to do it. I'm a big, use the diary. As I said, use the electronic diary. If you need to declutter, if you need to do anything in your life, it needs to be in the diary. So it was time to allocate each day, 1 to 31 days of the month, a few shorter on February, but then just a way to get through some of that backlog of paperwork.
I tend to put it all in one folder, and that folder incredibly overwhelming. It just gets thicker and thicker, and you feel like it's a bit like the emails, just keeps mounting up and becomes more of a pressure than any sort of sorting or filing system.
Yeah, we've only got 168 hours a week, so we really need to think about where we want to spend our time, and then allocate that time, through the different hats that you wear and the different things that you want to achieve in your life.
One of the blogs that I noticed on your website talked about 3 techniques to choose a finite amount of things to focus on and reduce feeling overwhelmed. And there seemed to be a lot in that really about habits and routines. Is that the trick?
Absolutely. I mean, my business is called Space and Time for obvious reasons. If you organise your space and organise your time, you're probably halfway there. But I completely believe that if you're organized with your time and start allocating time to those important parts of your life, those important things that you've just mentioned there, where you want to, whether it's your family, anything like that, if it's not in the diary, it doesn't happen. I was, as you said, an executive assistant for 20 years, 15 of those at Melbourne Storm Rugby League Club. And I used to, in our performance reviews, turn around to my boss and say, right, your turn. If it's not in the diary, it does not exist. If I do not know about it, it doesn't happen. So they soon learned that they need to get that stuff in the diary for things to be happening.
So now we know who really was the boss.
They're still doing pretty good without me, I assure you.
I bet they miss your organising. We're going to bring Bronwyn into the conversation at this point while we talk about particularly organising the office and finance. Bronwyn's a partner at Marsh Partners, and she works with businesses particularly on strategy and long-term vision, so you can enjoy and stay in control, working with purpose and having time. Like you just said, Julie, having the time to enjoy the benefits of working, particularly for yourself. Her passion's getting businesses into shape so that owners can work on their goals, be they personal or business goals. And for those who may have registered late, you may not have received a little checklist that we sent around as some pre-reading from Bronwyn. It's a really great checklist. We've popped that link to it in the chat box as well. But one of the questions at the end of that checklist was one that I asked our W&A members last week, and that was, what's keeping you up at night? And my answer to that, Bronwyn, was cash flow, because I think for many of us in small business, COVID really stretched things, and when we were all expecting a big uptick in January and we didn't quite. So Bronwyn, if cash flow is keeping us up at night, what can we do about it in the short term?
We've got to go back to the basics. Where does cash flow come from? So a lot of people just look at their bank account and go, cash is beautiful or cash is crappy because there's no money in the bank account. But it's not about that. It's about, who do you owe and who owes you? So, if people owe you a lot of money, then let's just get on and just start chasing those people. Let's work out how that can work and we can get that money in. And sometimes as business owners, we just have to get on the phone and do that versus having other people do it for us. There's a lot more relationship with you and the customer sometimes. So making sure that happens. If you're a business that deals with inventory, it's making sure that inventory is at the right levels as well, because if you've got too much, that's eating up your cash. If you don't have enough, then you actually don't have anything to sell. So it's about that process. So debtors, so customers, suppliers, inventory. And the other thing is, it's fine to say that, your cash flow is tight, but how can you prove it? So having your accounts up to date, and I'm sorry, I'm going to sound like a bit of an accountant, but it's really important to have your accounts up to date because you actually know then what's actually going on. Because a lot of people, end of the month, they might do their accounts, or 3 years later, they might do their accounts. But having them done on a weekly basis, yes, it might be scary, or yes, it might be sensational, but having that right, you'll know where you stand.
I think one of the things too, and you pointed to it a bit in the questionnaire, is perhaps one of the things that small businesses owners tend to do is they leave it too late to ask for help. So if cash flow is a problem, or if organising your business is a problem, when should you be asking for help? And probably more importantly, who should you be asking for help?
Okay, as soon as you start to worry or stress, that's when you ask. I keep saying to business owners that business life is pretty lonely. you know, you can talk to the dude at the pub, you can talk to your girlfriends, but they're maybe not giving you the best advice because they may or may not be in business. So as soon as you start to not feel okay, or as soon as you go, oh, I've got a great idea, I wonder if that's going to work. Like, don't be one of those people that go, well, that won't work, or it's going to be too hard, or any of those things. Like, Tesla man just had a go and look where he's at. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, we've all had a go, and we are where we are. So it's about just keep having a go. Who do you ask? Just if there's business coaches, consultants, accountants, lawyers. I mean, there's heaps of people. There's a W&A community as well. So people that are in business, because then they know what's happened. From my perspective, you know, we've got 800 clients. We've seen it all. And to be honest, everybody's got the same problems. Even though you may feel that it's all my problem, it's not. Everyone's got a cash flow problem. Everyone's got a staff issue. Everyone's got a, you know, productivity issue, whatever it is. We've all got it. But from my perspective, because I've seen it, sometimes just going, well, let's not do that because I've seen this happen if you do that, but if you tweak it this way, then this can happen. So it just takes a bit of pain out. You know, Julie was talking about time. We don't have much, especially as women, if we've got kids and all that sort of fun stuff as well. There is no time in our life. So if we can circumnavigate and make it faster, then let's do it.
I mean, ideally, we want to avoid those cliffs. We want to avoid getting into a situation where it is of concern and we do need to seek help. What are the sort of basic sort of business and accounting hygiene things that, a bit like the catching the 5 o'clock bus that Julie mentioned, what are the sort of basic things that we should be doing to maintain and stay in control of our business finances, either on a daily, weekly or monthly basis?
Yeah, so having those accounts up to date at least weekly at an absolute minimum. Keeping business and private separate. So many people combine it all up and then it just becomes a mess and we actually don't know. And from an accounting perspective, we're trying to save everybody's bottom and do the best we can for the ATO, like to reduce tax or whatever the case we're trying to do. So keeping it separate is really important and it makes it cleaner. Making sure you have the right structures in place to protect you and your business and your assets outside of the business. So making sure that's correct. So as an example, for me, obviously I own, you know, a portion of this business, then I have my assets out in another trust. So if anything happened to me and the business, then those assets are safe out the back end. So making sure that's okay. Making sure that, I'm probably going to go down to an accounting role for a second, but your BASs, your IASs, your super, your payroll tax, no question mark, have to be lodged on time at least, and super and payroll tax paid on time, because those are the things that the ATO is just coming for, in terms of making you pay big time if you don't have them sorted. So from a business perspective, if you're doing your accounts weekly, you can start putting some money aside for your tax. Have a little savings account at the side and just pop it in there. Don't pay them early, that's ridiculous. But put it in a little savings account and make sure that, you know, when that BAS arrives or the super or whatever, you're okay, because that's where a lot of stress comes.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. A couple of questions just to cover. One is about structure, business structure, obviously, and that separation between personal and business, particularly when, say, you are a sole trader, working from home, for example. Sometimes there's a real blur between what's me as an individual, what's my personal tax and expenses versus what's the business. Does the structure or the shape of however you've set up your business make a difference in that case?
No, not really. So if you're a sole trader, a partnership, a trust, a company, whatever, business is business. and private's private.
So 2 different shoe boxes. That's what.
2 different shoe boxes, 2 different boxes per Julie. So definitely, but please no shoe boxes. Come on.
Okay, moving on. But the 2 very clear headings around, personal, and even in the way your area is structured, it is around business questions and personal questions. So everything from goal setting to how you're looking after yourself, superannuation, long-term retirement, those things. We obviously need to be thinking about those as part of our approach and spending some time on a regular basis planning and implementing.
Yeah, and I think what we all have to remember is we're in business to make money. We're not in business for any other reason. At the end of the day, we're here to make money. Yes, we'll be helping people, and yes, doing good things, all that sort of stuff. Agree, but money is why we're doing it. Otherwise, we just get a job. Or you know what I mean? But then when we make the money, it's about ensuring we get the money out and create wealth outside of our business. So a lot of people say to me, my business is my super. And I actually just shake my head. We've just had a pandemic. We've just had businesses losing left, right, and centre. God knows what's going to happen with interest rates and all sorts of stuff in the economy moving forward. So how can we take some of the stuff out of our business and put it outside and start creating wealth there? That's really important. We need to have fun. So we're going to need to have fun out here too. So we're going to all retire at some time. Hopefully we're not going to be dead. So let's go and make sure we've got money and stuff so we can go and do whatever we want to do, whether it's overseas travel, going around Australia, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's making sure you have that cash flow outside.
So going back to that question of who to ask advice for, Sigrid's pointed out that sometimes accountants are purely accountants, and then other times they are more advisors. How do we sort of navigate finding the right person in that space, if it depending on what our need is, when there is that crossover from an accounting point of view? Like, where do you see the difference between someone who's an accountant versus someone who's a sort of financial advisor or business advisor?
So an accountant will ring you once a year.
Tax time.
Yeah. And no other time. They won't pick up the phone. They won't go, just, how you going? Are you okay? The advisor accountants will ask that question.
That's a really simple way to know the difference, or to understand where your accountant, financial advisor and perhaps wealth advisor fits within that spectrum. Yeah.
And we all know who accountants are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you sit down and all they do is talk tax and they use all these letters and you go, I have no idea what you just said to me. Yeah.
So just the tax time shoebox thing. What is the best preferred technique that you would recommend to take some of the stress out of tax? Really, it is a stressful time for not just business people, but a lot of people.
But it doesn't need to be.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
So is it planning? Is it that doing that something on a weekly basis?
Yeah. So so whether you use a computer package, whether you use an Excel spreadsheet, it really doesn't matter, does it? As long as you've got your income and your expenses in there. Because realistically nowadays, it's not just tax time, it's BAS time.
Yep.
So when you're doing your GST and all that sort of stuff. So every 3 months you're in stress.
Yep.
So if you just have the accounts done weekly, your little Excel spreadsheet, it doesn't really matter. Or just get a bookkeeper. Like, we don't have to do it all, do we? Like,
if there were 3 things we could do tomorrow to improve the health of our businesses, Bronwyn, what would you suggest they would be?
Focus what you're good at, because it will automatically fall into place. Make sure that, that accounting side or the bookkeeping, whatever you want to call it, is okay, because then you know where you stand. Have fun. Yeah, because otherwise you don't want to get up. You don't want to do it.
Fantastic. Great advice. Thank you.
That's okay.
I think I'm pretty much got 3 ticks there, I'm pretty sure. Kym, I want to bring Kym into the conversation. Kym Phillips is a second-generation removalist, so I think it's fair to say that organising and downsizing are in her blood. She is based in South End. Kym has relocated everything from government departments and private companies to homeowners and empty nesters. The moving angel from Moving Made Easy. And what I love about Kym is she loves to, where she can, recycle and reuse or use everyday items to keep everything organised. So as much as I'm a stationery expert and I love a good weaved basket with wooden handles, you can actually just use an ice cream container to do the same job. So Kym also knows where our dirty little secrets are, from the linen cupboard to the second drawer in the kitchen. And I think for most of us, what happens in our real life, our home life, flows over into where we are in our business and where we are in our personal life as well. So Kym, from your 30 years or so experience, what impact does the level of organisation in our homes in terms of our stress levels and our ability to focus on the fun stuff, and other things like work?
Oh, it has a huge impact, especially on our mental health and your physical health. It stops you from doing things that you want to be doing, and it also escalates all these other emotions going on inside you.
And so when we have those little problem areas at home, which I'm sure we all have, and sometimes they're bigger or smaller than at other times, how does that do? Like, you know, we're thinking about, oh my God, I don't actually have any clothes to wear because I've got a mountain ironing. Like, it really is adding to the normal stresses of our lives, isn't it?
Ah, definitely. I can relate. I was actually used to be one of the biggest hoarders you'd ever meet. I kept everything from the day I was born, and even previously things for my family. And then about 20 years ago, I decided that I needed to start going through things. So I totally understand about the holding on and the holding you back, so to speak. So yeah, it's you know, it's like if you're going to eat an elephant, you're not going to eat it all at once. It's one bite at a time. So you've got to break it all down and simplify. And I always say to my clients, as I said to a lady today, what's the cupboard or the room in your home that is stressing you out the most? And let's start there, because usually once you've done that, it's a sense of achievement and feeling like you're actually, there's a light at the end of the tunnel and you can actually do it.
So can I point to a couple of hot spots in the home, and not that I'm using myself as an example in this case, I would have to say, but let's start in the bedroom, the bedside table and the wardrobe. How can we make those spaces more functional for us?
A good one in your wardrobe is a process I get clients to do, or can do it with them. It's an 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, we only use 20% of what we have. And that's your kitchen, your bedroom, your bathroom, wherever it may be. So many times I help clients and they've got so many clothes in their wardrobe, still got tags on them that they've never worn. So I have a little technique that we use. So the items that, and we all have our loved favourite things that we wear all the time. Every time you wash those, when you put it back on a coat hanger, turn it around the other way and do it for about 6 months. And then when you get to that time, or do it for a year, and then you'll see actually what you're wearing and what you're not. And those other things could be then recycled or reused or purposed elsewhere. That's a little easy one to do. Even your folding things, like sometimes you'll have 20 pairs of socks and some could have holes in them and some you don't like. Even your undies, so to speak. We all have the ones we hate, the ones that fit, the ones that don't. You buy them and think, oh yeah, I'll try them next week, and you never get to it. So, and the bedside drawer, we often find that will just, oh, I'll chuck it in there, like could be kids' toys, various different things. I'll just throw it in there and I'll deal with it later. Little like little containers. You mentioned the ice cream container, not necessarily that, but like little, you don't have to go to IKEA and spend a lot of money on all the fancy storage options there are. You could probably most likely find something in your home. Shoe boxes are great. They don't often fit always in a bedside drawer, but I love
So
shoe.
you're saying we shouldn't be using our shoe boxes for our tax, but
Correct.
we can use them for something else.
Correct.
Yes. I love shoe boxes. I normally find lots in clients' houses and we repurpose them, sometimes for paperwork. Sorry, Bronwyn.
That's all right.
Usually I call it a little holding bay where, you know, it's like a to-do that can't be put off forever, but we could just pop it there when we're sorting through. I mean, Julie mentioned earlier about finding things. One of my clients I helped last year, we found a cheque for $14,500. That was from 10 years before that nothing could be done with it.
Oh, wow. How disappointing.
Yes. And sometimes they'll find even a handbag, you know, there'll be money or, you know, various different things that we find.
One of the questions that I don't know about our guests, but one of the questions that sends a chill down my spine is at the end of the day, you've had a long day, you've kicked some goals in your business and you get the question, what's for dinner? How can we organise like our fridge and our mealtime routine to take away some of the stress without the answer being takeaway?
A plan. The plan, that's the key to everything, whether it's a move or it's decluttering or whatever. Same with a meal plan. I'm probably a bit anal with a lot of this stuff. I'm not saying everyone has to do this, and people have a sense of feeling of judgment. I have to do it this way. Like I'll have people say to me, Kym, don't come to my house. I'd never let you in my house because it's so disorganised and you don't want to see my fridge because it's dirty and all this sort of thing. So we need to forget all that and take all that stress away from it and just break it all down. Meal plans are great. I do a meal plan. I'm not saying that everyone has to do it like this, but if you plan in advance, then you don't have to have all that stress around thinking. A perfect example is 4 ingredients. One of their cookbooks is all around planning on what you can do for dinner, simple things. And I'm a busy person. I travel a lot. So I find I'll cook a meal that I can have another night and just heat it up. So it's a quick and easy one. A barbie chook from the supermarket and a salad you can throw together and maybe some chips. Yeah, planning, I think, is the key to everything. And Bronwyn touched on that, is having that plan every week. I'm a big fan of Zero, so I use that. But yeah, having a plan and those little steps forwards that you can do regularly will prevent you from getting into tracks where, yeah, I'll get takeaway or I'll just throw that paperwork over there and I'll deal with it next month, and it never happens.
If you haven't already had a look at Kym's videos on Facebook, I recommend you do. How to deal with what's under the kitchen sink and what's under the bathroom sinks is a beauty, because I have no idea how some of those things got under there in my case. But I have 2 words for you, Kym: spare room. Also known as the ironing room, the storage room, the junk room, the dumping ground, occasionally the guest room. How do we tame the spare room? Is it the Marie Kondo approach of chucking everything into the middle and keep it or not? Or is there better methods to tackle a room?
Yeah, under the kitchen sink and bathroom, one I think I see a lot is people buy too many things when they actually already have things in there they can use. So that's why if you watch my video, you would have saw that I set up little tubs. So before you shop for under your sink or your bathroom, check what new things you've actually got in there. And if you don't want them or need them, then move them on, because that's taking up space. I know things are on special and you think, oh, that's on special, I'll grab it, but they're always on special. And if it's not this week, it'll be next week. So that's valuable space. Yeah, it's a real, most homes, I actually don't, but a lot of homes will have a room that they just keep putting things in. And yes, it is a trap. And it's about, if that's your stress and if your organising skills are like this handle and they're broken, then you just got to get in there, set up a plan, ask for help, and then it's executing it. And it's just going to make your life less stressful, more organised. And Julie touched on earlier, little simple things that you can do on a daily basis to keep you organised rather than getting it. I mean, I helped another lady last year, and she'd never sat on her lounge for 2 decades.
Wow.
2 decades. So when we cleared her home, every room was quite full. But when we cleared that, she sat there and cried for hours, well, not quite hours, but a long time, because it was the first time in 2 decades she could sit on her couch.
Jeez.
So it's those little things that we can do each day. And people say, oh, yeah, but you're so organised and you make it sound easy. And like I said, it's like the elephant. You're not going to eat it all at once. It's working out what your stress area is and your pain point, and then focusing.
And is that the first step? Is the first step actually identifying where the problem areas are? Because, you know, we can say, oh, I'm going to spend the weekend organising my house, which in itself is so daunting. Is it about identifying just one area, one space, one thing, one cupboard to make a difference on?
Rome wasn't built in a day either, so you can't do it all. And I always recommend to start in one room and do the part or cupboard room that's overwhelming you the most. A lot of people's garages are like that. Like, you'll find most people can't put their car in the garage. Their garage is full of stuff. So whichever pain point, or grating your cheese, as I like to say, whichever one's stressing you out and stopping you from fulfilling what you want to do in life, then start in that area first, or that cupboard, and work out what it is. And I get clients to make three priority lists. So definitely keeping, and then definitely going, and then a maybe. And those maybes, if they're smaller type things, put them in the boot of the car or put them in the back of the car and drive around for a week or two. And if you haven't taken them out and put them in the house, and I had a lady last year too, and she'd message me and say, Kym, I want to take them out. I say, no, you don't need them.
So that may be the answer to Sigrid's question, because she asked that she often in a cleanup will throw things out, and then suddenly a week later that she wants them, and so she has to go and buy them again. Is that one of the that actually, if you're not sure, it's definitely going to put it somewhere where maybe in a week's time you can put it in the back?
A common question I have when people first call me and ask about the service is that, are you going to help me with it? Or am I going to have to, you know, you give me the instructions? Not everyone wants someone there to hold their hand and do the whole process with them. But it's a bit like if you need someone to get you up to exercise in the morning, then you need that sports coach. So there's 2 options where we can hold your hand and do the whole thing with you the whole way through, or we can give you the tools and techniques to do it yourself, whichever is going to be suitable for you.
That's fantastic. I'd like all of our guests who are watching and listening to, if they've got a question, and either turn your camera on so we can see you, or pop it in the chat box. But I might just circle back to Julie, because obviously a lot of the things that Kym covered, you also cover from a home organising point of view. Any areas or additional tips there that you have, Julie?
No, you probably would have seen I was nodding my head a lot to what Kym was saying. We're kindred spirits, I think. Organised people are that way because they put the time into it. And I just saw Romanda just put the little comment that she got some advice from a professional organiser to say, if you've got 5 minutes, tidy a drawer or a shelf, just something little. And that's what organised people do. We look at the diary ahead of time to plan what time to leave to go to the doctor's appointment, those sorts of things, or spending just those 5 minutes here and there to make life simpler and to make a plan, as Kym said. So I'd love Bronwyn's advice as well about looking after your accounts and doing little bits of that every day. And of course, I was being very tongue-in-cheek when I was talking about putting your paperwork in a box, but as I mentioned, sometimes it's much better than all over the house. And just wanted to also lastly say about Sigrid just asked about throwing things out and then wanting them. I really encourage people to write a list down of the things they are getting rid of, and then make note of which ones they did want to go back to, because I reckon they're probably getting rid of far more than they're actually, you know, going to retrieve. But it's just those ones we think of top of mind that, oh, I already had that. You know, hopefully it's not a $1,000 jacket or something that you want to go and buy again. It's just something you can pop to Bunnings. I don't want to be frugal and say just, sorry, not frugal, the opposite, throw things out and then just go and buy them again. I'm not saying that, but the anguish that I see with people deciding whether I should keep this or not, it's just mind-boggling. And I understand there's lots of things that go into that, but do yourself a favor and have a good think about it, but don't be afraid to let go of it, because you probably won't go looking for it.
Thank you, Julie. Bronwyn, a question for you. How long do business and tax documents need to be kept for, and can they be stored, or do we need to keep paper copies?
Electronic's fine. Sorry, you broke up, so hopefully that answered that question. It depends upon whether you're a small or large for ATO purposes. If you're small, it's 2 years from the lodgement of the tax return. If you're large, then it's 4 years. The only proviso of that is the assets. So if you buy a property, for example, you'll have the contract for purchase and you might sell it in 10 years' time. It's all those documents for the purchase and the sale for 2 years after you lodge the sale tax return. Okay, so and it's being smart as well, though, because, you know, Kym talked about Xero before. A lot of people now, you can just save your receipts into Xero. So if they're all saved there, then you can just shred it, burn it, whatever you want to do. So it's not there.
Create a big pile and dance around it.
Yeah, correct.
You mentioned Xero. Is that a preferred system, or MyOb, or does it matter?
Look, it doesn't really matter. The Xero, from our perspective, has lots of add-ons. So as your business grows, you can add on, whether it's an inventory system or a timesheet system, whatever you want, versus MyOb and QuickBooks or Phoenix or whatever else. And it's pretty user-friendly. And the big thing is we can see what's happened. There's a history there. So if somebody goes and deletes something, then we know. Like, so we've just got that trail to make it easier, because in 4 years' time, if we've got an audit, we don't remember. I mean, I've got clients who don't remember where they spent 100 grand 2 days ago. So it's like, can we just have a little bit of a receipt?
It's that 100 grand. It's on the couch with Kym Phillips check for 14 grand.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of, the ATO has been doing some posting, particularly on LinkedIn lately, Bronwyn, saying obviously BAS dates are coming up, saying, you know, they've got ways and means to help, and everything from payment management and so forth. Is the ATO there to help us?
At present, yes. We have a budget coming up, and we have and then after that, the gloves might be off. The government's broke. Okay, we've got to pay back all the debt, all the stimulus that we've been doing. So post that, maybe it'll change. My biggest suggestion is use your accountant to talk with the ATO, especially if you've got a bit of a sketchy history with payments, because we just know what to say, and we can be that buffer as well. And I was going to say make it up, but not make it up, but just, you know, we know what to say, I suppose. So yeah,
you mentioned interest rates, and there obviously has been a bit of talk in the last couple of days about what the future's looking like for interest rates. I'm not asking for recommendations, but is that something that we should be looking carefully at this time, in terms of both home loans, business loans, and general financing?
You can. The banks will already have factored into their fixed rates. the uplift that's about to occur. So the question is, how far is it going to go? And nobody knows. I had an economist today and he was saying it'll go to say 5 to 6% by 2024, 2025. So if you fixed it in at 3.5 now for 4 years, is that better than your 2.5 at the moment, then averaging it out? So it's, again, really just comes down to the cash flow and stability, I suppose, knowing what you can and can't afford.
Okay, are there any further questions from our guests before I just circle back to our panel members? All good. So Julie, final tips. What could and should we do in our office space? It's Friday, good time, Friday tomorrow. Thinking about maybe setting an alarm and spending a little bit of time doing a bit of a tidy up in the office.
Yeah, I think put the timer on for 10 minutes. Don't get carried away, or you could be there all weekend. Do 10 minutes, leave time for packing up. Knowing where you're going to put the stuff that you're getting rid of as well, whether you're going to take it straight to the op shop rather than trip over it in the hallway for the next 6 months. And I don't think Peter Walsh's new show has started yet. I think it's very soon, which will be awesome. But make sure you get stuff to the op shops before that show starts, because it's going to be crazy and no one's going to be able to drop anything off anywhere because everyone's going to be decluttering. But yeah, 10 minutes or so on the desk. Start with the top. Start with a clear surface, and then that'll just make a world of difference, and use that 5 p.m. bus to keep it that way.
Great idea. I think my bus needs to come at 4:30 just to give me a little bit of extra time.
Perfect.
Kym, perhaps the weekend, I see a couple of comments, our guests, that they may have a busy weekend ahead in terms of planning. Where should we start our focus for a bit of a tidy up on the weekend?
Start in the area of your home that's bothering you the most, because that's where the stress and the overwhelm and anxiety will be coming from. That's my top tip. I actually suggest to a lot of people, make it happen Monday. Monday's the start of the week. If their mums and kids are at school and they've got time, yes, the weekend's a great time. It's usually you want to socialise and you can get distracted. So yeah, definitely do the room, and obviously we're here to help and ask questions and get you started. But once you start, you'll be unstoppable. I mean, I'm an absolute minimalist now because I travel a lot for work. I live in a uniform. I live out of my car, not literally, but I carry a small bag now, and I'm such a minimalist. To go from being the biggest hoarder to a minimalist is extraordinary, and it's really invigorating. Not everyone has to do that, but it is achievable.
That is one thing I wanted to touch on now that travel is becoming a word that we may be able to start to do again. Do you have some tips about how to organise ourselves in terms of travel? Obviously, it depends if you're travelling on your own or if you're travelling with family, but just sort of, how to not overpack suitcase. How do you get it down to the basic needs?
It is a bit tricky if you're used to taking the biggest suitcase, one for shoes and another one for clothes. I actually did a vlog a couple of years ago how to pack quite minimalist. Not everyone could do it. I do carry on luggage only now, or if I'm going, like, to say to Melbourne where all my family live, I actually just take my computer and travel in the clothes I'm wearing. That's it, and everything's there. But keep it simple. You can mix and match things, like black's a great colour, and just break it all down, because we can, in most places you can wash, so we can get in habits that, if you're gone for 5 days, okay, I have 5 outfits for during the day, 5 to go for dinner. But half the time you bring your suitcase back, I've done it myself, and you've only worn half of what's in there. It is a little bit tricky. Even our daughter, Mum, said, "Mummy, I can't do carry-on. I need a bag for shoes." But her last trip, she came with carry-on only, because now she's got to pay for the extra luggage. So it is doable, but women, I know, we tend to more often than not will take too much. So break it all
I
down.
think we tend to take too much when we haven't decided what it is that we were going to take. So we just kind of put it in just in case, the old just in case suitcase.
I know, but the 80-20 rule, see, if you go back to that, 80% of the time we only use 20% of what we have, and that's even on a holiday usually or a weekend away.
I love that about turning the hanger away to see what you've worn, because that's a simple visual way to sort through keeps and the never wear again. There's also that pile, I'm just going to turn my video off there. There's also the pile I will say. Is that a throwing out pile?
Sorry, you just cut out, Cheryl. I don't know if it's my end or...
No, it could be me. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, I just was saying that there is the pile in the wardrobe that the I will fit into that again one day pile. Should we just bite the bullet and throw that pile out?
Yeah, well, we've all been known to keep something that we wore when we were 20 perhaps, and we all have great intentions of getting back into things. But yeah, you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and do it. And you might want to keep a couple of things, but don't keep, 10 or 20 things, because chances are, like I had a client a couple of years ago I helped, and she had, size 10 in that wardrobe and size 14 in that one and size 16, and she had about 5 wardrobes in the house with all the different sizes. But when we broke it all down, she was only wearing not even half of it. So we do tend to keep things for the just in case it's holding on to the memories. Something that's great, take a photo of it if it's your favourite shirt or your favourite dress or something like that, and sort through, because look, there's so many people out there that are really doing it tough with clothing, linen, like mobile phones. Now, DV safe phone are taking them. So if you've got a phone in your office drawer or in your home, then collect all those. I'm collecting all these things that can be recycled and reused. So if you're not wearing it, it's time to move it on. Even a chair in your bedroom, you might have, 20 things sitting there. I'll do it next week. Right. No time like the present.
That's a fabulous point to close on. Thank you to our 3 speakers, Julie, Kym and Bronwyn. Some fabulous tips in our home, in our office and in our financial lives. We have shared in the chat, and we will share this recording, and it has they're all very generous with their time and the tips that share. So don't miss both the websites and LinkedIn links for our 3 guests who have joined us. Thank you all for your time, and I'm sure we all are looking forward to tackling our biggest challenge, be it in the office, be it at home, or unpacking the financial shoebox and getting that sorted out. Kym, Julie and Bronwyn, and thanks to all of you for joining us in this virtual Business Insight series, and we look forward to more happy discussions.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.